Drake London versus Chris Olave. Two guys from the same draft class, two kind of polarizing players, maybe a little bit disappointing to start the year slightly. But we're talking about them. We're Dynasty startup season, so you're sitting there, you're on the clock. You want to take one of these two guys, Olave or London. We're going to argue for each one. Brian, I'm going to let you start. And you're arguing for Chris Olave. Why would you take Olave over London in the Dynasty startup draft? By the way, real quick, they are ranked essentially back-to-back. They are back-to-back. Olave's wide receiver 10, London's wide receiver 11, according to Keep Trade Cut.
So Chris Olave, I think we've seen what he can do these last couple of years, even with not great quarterback play. He's been a solid wide receiver too. I think people kind of get that twisted in their head a little bit where it's like, oh, he's like a low end number one guy. And it's like, no, he's actually kind of a mid to low end number two guy. But granted, I'm pretty sure Carr was playing with a lot of injuries last year too. So I feel like he can get better this year. Like, did not a lot in the touchdown arena, similar to London in that respect. But I just feel like he's also similar to London, I guess. He's the clear-cut number one receiver on his team. But what I do think he has less of than London, which is good, is competition. He's basically got like a 28-year-old Alvin Kamara and nothing else like around him. They do have some young guys, so we're gonna have to see what we see from Rashid Shaheed and A.T. Perry this year. A couple of third year guys. Is that right?
Second for Perry.
Second for Perry, third for Shaheed. But it's I do really think that there's a lot more potential like good players on the Falcons, and so I feel like he is it's going to be Olave's offense, like kind of hands down. Like he doesn't have he has like the better younger version of running back Olave, or London does in Bijan, and that's an age thing. That's no dig on Alvin Kamara. He was amazing for a number of years, but there's no tight end competition for short area stuff from the Kyle Pitts on the Falcons. So I just think that Olave has a better chance of kind of staying in that wide receiver 15-ish range, even though he hasn't quite hit that yet.
Yeah. That's kind of my argument for Drake London. It was kind of the last thing you said is situation not really changing for Olave. Like they didn't bring anyone in terms of receivers. The coaching staff is the same. I know they have a new offensive coordinator, but Dennis Allen is still the head coach. Again, they didn't really bring anyone or draft anyone of note in the receiving core. Derek Carr is still the guy. So, why should we expect anything different from Olave unless, like you said, Derek Carr was severely injured for a majority of the season? But we've seen it back-to-back years now, and they've been good. Like you said, top 20 receiver last year. 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. He went from 72 to 87 catches. I don't know how much more he's going to go up with catches. I don't know touchdown if he's going to ever be a big touchdown guy. He had 5 last year. I feel like, they were spread out. I thought he had a big touchdown game, but he was getting the targets. It seemed to be off with Derek Carr. Does that relationship fix? He was getting the targets, almost 140 targets, but only a catch percentage of 63%. And Drake London, it's all about the upside. I think we've seen, again, the worst case scenario for London the last 2 years of catching balls from Mariota and Heineke and Ritter. And it just shows how, no matter how good you are, you still need a quarterback to get you the ball. And now you got Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins, look what he's doing with Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen, or even guys back in Washington like Pierre Garçon and Jordan Reed and stuff. He kind of does it wherever he goes. You know what Kirk Cousins is going to do. He's going to throw for, 4,300 yards most likely, potential of 30 plus touchdowns. That's just kind of what he does. And yeah, there's slightly more competition. It's really just Kyle Pitts, right? I guess you can argue Bijan, but Kyle Pitts is obviously better than the second option on the Saints. But he's a tight end. He's going to kind of get his. I don't think it's really going to affect London too much. And you look at their wide receiver too, and it's Darnell Mooney. So I'm not really too worried about that. I think the wide receiver too is pretty comparable to like Shaheed, right? You can probably pretty comparable players. So I think it's just about potential here. Like we know London's good. Now, how good is he? We don't know, but he was, I believe, is the number one receiver in that draft for a reason. And again, he's already accounting for like 25% of the team's passing offense. So you do that math with Kirk Cousins. And another note, if Kirk Cousins does get hurt or whatever, well, they just drafted a top 10 quarterback. So it's like you hopefully have a pretty good backup. Whereas, the Saints drafted a guy in Spencer Rattler in the 5th round, 6th round. So, I feel a little bit more comfortable with that security blanket there as well. But both very similar. Like, have they reached it? To me, Olave feels very much like DJ Moore. Very, very much like DJ Moore until he got to the Justin Fields in the Bears last year of just like, we know this guy can do more, but he never gets the opportunity, never catches he always catches 4 touchdowns, never catches more than 90 balls or like 1,100 yards, 1,150 yards. And again, still very valuable, but I think London has a little bit more of that upside. So that's my argument there for London. Are you still taking Olave?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not actually really sure what I would do. Like, if I was given the choice between those two, if they were like back to back, and it's like, well, I can only have one. I don't know. That would have to be, I don't know, kind of a breakneck decision. I mean, if you said wide receiver 10 and 11, so that means they're going in a super flex league. What, round 3?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
so
round 3. That's fair.
Yeah, so most likely they're at best, I would say your wide receiver 2s, but most likely your first guy off the board or first receiver off the board, or not most likely, say 50-50 shot. Yeah, I know that's really tough. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision right now.
Yeah. No, for sure. And just another note, like Derek Carr, I think he's only real like in terms of an elite wide receiver season. I think it's only been like Devontae Adams in 2022. Over 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. Like Amari Cooper's numbers with the Raiders and Derek Carr. Kind of like Olave to start his year. 70 catches, 83 catches, 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. Just didn't get it going. It wasn't happening there. I don't know if it's like the style of receiver that, that's just who they are. Then again, we've never really seen Amari Cooper do more than what that's kind of the receiver he is. Michael Crabtree, couple, 1,000-yard season there, but I think we've only really seen like one truly elite season, and that was Devontae Adams. And I don't know if Olave is that type of player, so I just don't know if the pass volume is going to be there for Derek Carr. Although he did throw it 550 times last year, so those are good numbers. But that's my concern is more with Carr than Olave, I guess, and that situation's not changing in the next 2 years. So.
Yeah.
Again, probably no right or wrong answer. They're back to back. I mean, there's going to be a wrong answer most likely, but we'll see if how wrong it is. If it's just very similar seasons or something like that. So Any other thoughts on Olave versus Drake London?
No, I think we wrapped it up.
Nice. We'll finish up there. Let us know in the comments who you would choose if you had to choose between those two. And we have a couple of these already out, so check them out. And we will catch you all in the next video.